Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Cox. I'm a member of the Netcapital team. Let's allow 1 minute for everybody to settle in. Thank you.
Eric, do we keep our videos on the whole time?
Yes, please. And only
Okay.
the speaker will show up
Okay.
on the actual recorded content. And so, yeah, let's definitely stay on mute until you're presenting, but you can stay on camera.
Okay.
Perfect. Thanks. Okie dokie. Let's go ahead and get started then. Thanks again for everybody for joining. Today, we're really excited about our September 2022 demo day. I'm joined with three fantastic panelists, including folks from the team of Smooth Experience, Demand Derivatives, and Kazoo. So we have Robert, Greg, and Peter on the line here. Each of them will present for about 10 minutes, and we want to allow for about 10 more minutes of questions. And so for that reason, please do use the Q&A feature built into Zoom. I know there's also a chat feature, but that's so much harder to track as they come in. So please do use the Q&A feature so we can see as many of the questions as they come in and address as many of them as possible. And do ask your questions. That's what we're here for. We want to keep this as interactive as possible. So please do go ahead and hit that Q&A feature and ask your questions of our panelists. As always, these companies are actively raising capital on the Netcapital platform. I'll go ahead and add a link to each of them into the chat right now. And as they present, I'll add the link to that specific presenter real time into the chat feature as well. So you'll be able to click that button, review the offering page, and if you're so inclined, you can invest. That's all of my housekeeping. So with all that being said, we're going to go in that order with SmoothX starting us off. Come on in, Greg. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're building with Smooth Experience?
Thank you, Netcapital, and particularly Eric for bringing this day together. So I'm going to take you on a little travel journey, hopefully to different parts of the world. But Smooth Experience, we are a travel in-destination super app. Our goal is to give you, the traveler, itineraries, activities, and tours to do when you get to a destination, but also a lot of local information, weather, food, happenings, and be able to pace for certain things while you're at that destination. We have as you can see, we have a very young team of professionals there. We have some vast experience across many different industries brought together to put together Smooth Experience. Hopefully Francis and Alex are joining me on the call today as well. So their backgrounds are in data, telecommunications, a number of startups. I myself have over 35 years of experience in the travel tourism industry, over 20 years here in Asia Pacific, also in Europe, in the Middle East. And I even many years ago, did a technology startup in Silicon Valley. I did want to highlight some of our advisors on our board. Both James and Professor Lim down in Singapore are regional experts on artificial intelligence. And we have in Texas, Dr. Peter Tarlow. Peter is the world expert on tourism safety and security and has literally written a book on that subject. And then up in Vancouver, we have Kathy. Kathy is a specialist in very high-end travel and curated tours and personalized tours. So those advisors are sitting there helping us as we go on our journey. Now, what is our journey and the problem we're trying to solve? Well, booking an air ticket in a hotel is pretty easy for everybody. And I know you all have your favorite sites where you go to book those things. But as soon as you go a little bit deeper into travel and try and find out, well, when I get to my destination, what do I want to do? What am I going to eat there? What am I going to go and see and visit, and any adventures and things I want to do while I'm there? That's a little bit harder to find. And you have to go to quite a number of websites and different sources to get that information. And when you get that information, it's a little bit unclear about how accurate it is, how up to date it is, and things like that. Also, after COVID, we're seeing that travelers have a lot more demand about planning very precisely where they're going to go, what are the current COVID conditions in the destination I'm going to or the country I'm going to. And there's a lot more questions about traveling versus we used to just literally book a ticket, jump on a plane and go somewhere. So there's a lot more of that. And of course, people are now seeking a little bit more unique experiences in the destination to be able to have a better chance when they get there. And finally, when you get to that destination, a lot of the tools and apps you currently have on your mobile phone quite often don't work. I know in the States you use, as soon as you get to an airport, you pick up your Uber and get a driver from the airport on Uber. But when you come to Asia, Uber's not in Asia, so you can't use that. If you go to China and try and use Google Maps, you can't get anywhere in China on Google Maps. So having the right tools when you get to a destination is also important. So those are the three problems we're trying to solve: the clutter, the information about the destination, and have usable tools when you get to that destination. So Smooth Experience, our solution to this is to give you a super app when you get to that destination. And that super app includes all sorts of travel deals, retail, shopping. You want to go zip lining, diving. Certainly from the US, a very popular thing out here in Asia and the Pacific is diving. Where do you want to have the best local cuisine? And of course, if you've been in if you come to Asia and you've been in eating rice and noodles for a while, after a couple of days, you're going to go, damn it, where am I going to get a good hot dog or a really good burger over there? And so we're going to provide you all that information on our app and give you that information. Now, you might also want to attend a local sports event. There might be some indigenous festivals that you're interested in attending. And so we want to curate all that information locally and give that to you on the app. And of course, allow you to pay in local currency when you get there. Now, how are we doing this? We've targeted the beautiful islands of Fiji in the middle of the Pacific as our first destination to roll out our super app. And a couple of reasons there. Fiji, after COVID, was the first Pacific island to really open up its doors again and let tourists come in. Also, Fiji, the main curators of travel there come out of Australia and New Zealand, and the US also market is very strong in Fiji. In fact, the US, a lot of travelers go there. The beautiful diving and beaches in Fiji. Also, travelers spend an awful lot of money in Fiji when they get there. So over 500 million pre-COVID. So we've targeted this market as a sort of source market. And Booking.com and Expedia, their research shows that when people get to a destination, 60–70% of their travel spend is actually in that destination. And I know we've all come back from a holiday sometimes, and at the end of the month, you get your credit card bill, and you look at and you go, oh my God, did I really spend that much? And you're budgeting again for the next holiday. So a lot of money is spent in destination, and a lot of that is spontaneous. A lot of people wait until they get to the destination to decide what they're going to do. Let's spend a couple of days on these beautiful Fijian beaches, and after we've got sunburned and had enough of that, then let's decide what we're actually going to do in this destination. So that's where we're looking to pick up that business with our app in the destination. Now, how do we do this? We're providing us a downloadable super app. And in that app, we're going to have lots and lots of activities, tours, a booking system. You'll have your itinerary, your tickets on that app. We're using a lot of local, in Fiji, we actually hired a couple of local bloggers and local people who are giving us all the local deals. So what's happening this week in Fiji? So when you get there, you know exactly what's happening around your hotel, what's happening in the district. You might want to go and do local things. You might want to do some cooking classes, might want to attend a couple of sessions. There's a local market that's available. And it only happens on a Tuesday and a Thursday. And in that local market, sure, there's lots of fresh fruit and vegetables, which you may not want for your hotel. But that local market also has some stores where you can buy lots of indigenous made handicrafts and things like that. Now, those types of souvenirs are significantly cheaper than if you go to a souvenir shop and buy all that stuff that's made in China. So all those types of information on local, we curate for you. And how big is this market around the world? Well, during COVID, travel and tourism was hit particularly hard. As you know, the whole industry just came to a grinding halt. And it was about $1.7 trillion before COVID. Now, it's rebounding strongly now as all the countries are opening up, but there's still a lot of issues with COVID. In fact, China is still under lockdown, and that's the biggest tourism market in the world. Our focus is very much on the tours, activities, and attractions segment of travel, and that's the fastest growing segment of travel. Now, we're very focused on the Asia-Pacific region at this point in time. That's a $120 billion industry. However, when we bring in the local part of that, which we call travel retail, all the local shops, all the local dealings and information, that's another $475 billion in our region. And so it's a sizable market, a scale of market that we're attacking. How do we make money out of all this? very simply, the travel retail marketplace that we're putting products onto for you to have a look at and for you to buy, we make a margin on that. We directly contract with a lot of the suppliers. We also contract with large aggregators of content, and we bring that to you, and that's our markup, and that's the bulk of our industry. We also have on our website and our app opportunities for marketing, for advertising your brand on the app. And of course, we're dealing with a lot of tourism boards, airlines, and other big travel groups where we're going to do affiliate marketing with them as well. Just taking a quick look at our technology. Our technology is divided into 3 parts. Pre-journey, what you do pre-journey to book and search for your travel, what you actually do in journey, which is our major focus with the application, and also post-journey, trying to capture some of those things there. Some of this technology we are building in-house, but a lot of the technology we also go out-house. And we use third-party vendors to provide that with us. In the hotel side of things, we're connected already through to Expedia, Booking.com, Hotel Beds. These are the largest hotel aggregators in the world. That gives us over 700,000 hotels across the world in 120 different countries. On air, we're connected through to Sabre and Travel Fusion, so we get all the airlines curated there and the low-cost carriers as well. And of course, one of the things with a mobile app, we all go, well, you know, on my phone, I've got a lot of mobile apps already. So Greg, why do I need your mobile app? And why would I download it? And how can I download it? So pre-journey, we are connecting up with some of the airlines and some of the tourism boards, and we'll even white label our app so they can include it in their side. So when you download your itinerary or your ticket, you may indeed get our app as part of that download. When you get to the destination, when you arrive in Fiji, when you arrive at the airport, we're going to have billboards at the airport, digital billboards, and we're going to have, and also there's Wi-Fi welcoming messages that come out. We're linking up with those types of activities to hit you and let you download and see what's available at the tourism and transportation hubs. How have we done so far? We actually started this business right in the middle of COVID where you couldn't travel. So why would you be crazy to start a travel company when you can't travel? But we sat down, we did that. We had nothing better to do. We raised over $1 million last year, and we did a soft launch last year. And we're going to be launching our super app later this year for the Christmas season, the Christmas travel season. So far, we've done over $1 million in revenue, which is pretty good considering travel is really only just coming back. And there's still a lot of challenges with travel. I know if you've been through airports recently, you see there's a lot of chaos there. Airlines, hotels, travel people, everybody's short of staff and trying to get their staff back and get their systems up and running again. So we've still got a ways to go before we get the whole industry back and ticking 100% again. Now, as I said, we've done the joint venture in Fiji, and that's our first destination. We're also looking at other destinations outside of that. And we've also been involved in a couple of accelerator programs around in the US that have helped us as well. So where are we going from here? We actually, when we started the journey in the middle of COVID, our destination in mind was actually to do a NASDAQ listing. And that's where we really want to go with Smooth Experience at the end of the day. But essentially what we're very focused on is getting you the tools in destination to make the most of your experiences in that destination. And by doing so, we're empowering the local vendors at that destination to be able to give you their instant deals. If they've had a tour boat and they've had a cancellation last minute, we're able to give out to all you users the fact that, hey, there's some spare seats on that boat last minute. So we're empowering these local vendors also to give them some digital marketing tools and help them with their journey as well. So in summary, we're bringing together the travel industry, payments and fintech, and retail all onto a digital ecosystem for you, the traveler. So when you get to your destination, there's not so much of a hassle in finding things to do, and you can really relax, enjoy it, and have fun and do something memorable. And so at the end of all this, our goal really is to give you awesome in-destination experiences and so that you enjoy your travel. So thank you for your time, and I hope you have very safe travels when you do, and I'm looking forward to having you on board when you get to Fiji or you get to one of our other destinations. Eric and I welcome questions for this.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Greg. Stayed right on track on timing as well. So I appreciate you sharing your screen and sharing about Smooth Experience with the folks on the line here. We have some questions coming in. Pretty interesting concept. Of all the places, why Fiji, and at what milestone are you now? So I know you spoke that a little bit, but let's dig deeper into that.
Sure. So Fiji is a really interesting test bed because it's got lots of local vendors that are supplying services, so the big travel groups tend to. You can get on an airline, you can get to Fiji, and you can book one or two activities, but there's a lot of other activities that you don't see until you get there. And it's got a wonderful local culture as well, food and cuisine that you'd never even think about when you get to an island like Fiji. You'd tend to eat at the hotel restaurant, it's safe, but actually there's a lot of things there that you can do. I mentioned that market. There's a lot of great little markets that happen on certain days of the week that unless you stumble across them, you don't know they're there. So at the moment, we are curating content. We're doing direct contracts with a lot of these local vendors to get their rates, get their details, and get their pictures of what they're offering and services to put onto our app and load onto our app to make that available. But also the local weather. If you're at a beach, but if it's raining tomorrow, you're not going to go to the beach. You want some indoor activity. So what are you going to do? If you've got your family there, you don't want your family stuck in the hotel room with you all day long. So we're at that stage of putting all that together and launching that app later this year for the Christmas season.
No, I think that's really exciting. I'm definitely one of those travelers that's like one of my greatest fears when I'm traveling is just accidentally missing like the marquee thing that you do at the location. It's just like one of those things that's like almost crippling for me when I travel.
I know, it's very annoying when you come back from travel and you meet one of your neighbors and they go, oh yeah, I went to Fiji last year. Did you do here? Did you do? No, I didn't even see that. What? I missed out on all those things. So yeah, it's frustrating.
Absolutely. So I do love that. Let's talk a little bit about some of your successes to date. Both New Chip Accelerator and 500 Startups, both fantastic accelerator programs. Can you talk a little bit about your experience there and some of the takeaways that you're able to gain there?
Sure, and both of those experiences, very different experiences, and they've given us some guidance. Now we're quite professional. We've done startups ourselves. We think we know it all, but you really don't know it all, and it's really good to go through some of these startup programs and realize going back to basics, going back to the 101 of how you should do it. Our original pitch deck, 30 pages long. No. You got to get that down to 10 pages, guys. And so going through that experience, I think, is very good, and also just getting other people's opinion when you talk about this pitch to like investors today. Everybody has a different take on that, and so getting their opinion and ideas also. And we've actually done a sort of a pivot to Fiji. Was a little bit of a pivot. We'd started out in Singapore and looking at Singapore, but Singapore and Southeast Asia stood under a lot of lockdowns, under a lot of COVID conditions. So we thought if we wait, we keep waiting for that, we're going to be waiting forever. So we jumped into the Pacific, which was open and available to travel to, and that's really why we targeted that, because we could actually start earning revenue from business right now.
Absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for that question from the attendees here. More questions, and then we'll start to transition to the next presenter. Partnering with airlines is a great idea as they don't just offer, as they don't offer this in destination. What's your plan to connect with them? So sorry, how are you connecting with the airlines to be able to offer more destinations?
Sure. So we're in discussion with a number of airlines right now, particularly in Fiji. Fijian Airlines has direct flights, and Qantas and a couple of airlines out of Fiji Airlines actually flies directly to the US, by the way, too. It's a long flight, 10, 15 hours on a plane. But we're partnering with them to look at partnering with the airlines so that you can do your itinerary, ticket, and digital boarding passes on the app. And then you see all the other features on the app when you get to the destination as well as an e-wallet where you can actually load your foreign currency onto the e-wallet and pay that locally. Now, of course, that avoids all the hotel exorbitant exchange rates and the money changes when you get to a destination when you never know you're getting a good deal or not. And also, if you've got a family, having your kids charge everything to the hotel room, but by the time you check out, you've got an enormous bill there. So you could put a few dollars on a wallet and give that to your son or daughter and say, use that wallet there. So partnering with the airlines and those types of partnerships are really vital for us to make the app really friendly and usable for you as an individual traveler or as a family traveler or as a couple traveling.
That's fantastic, Greg. Thank you so much. And thank you for the questions from the attendees for Greg and smooth experience. As I mentioned, they're actively raising on the Netcapital platform. I added a link to each into the chat feature. I'm going to add that again one more time as we wrap up that presentation. So thank you so much for that, Greg.
Pleasure.
We're going to keep the conversation going with Robert about demand derivatives. Robert, why don't you come on in and tell us a little bit about what you're building with demand derivatives?
Hi, Eric. Thank you very much. Hello, welcome everybody. Yeah, I put together a little presentation as well. It's only about 5 minutes, so we should have enough for oh, I have to share my screen, right? Okay, from this end.
Yes.
Okay. There we go. Is that showing up there?
Looks great.
Okay, good. Okay, hang on. There we go. Okay. All right, welcome everyone. My name is Bob Kraus. I'm the CEO of Demand Derivatives. We are a large-scale, pre-revenue fintech company, a revolutionary futures exchange and clearinghouse, trading the world's major assets in a creative new way. We are seeking $6 million in exchange for 15% of our company. Demand derivatives exchanges is really the largest industry in the world. They trade $15 trillion each day on exchanges. That's 15,000 times bigger than Amazon's daily sales. That's like all the money in the world every 2 weeks. In the US, the CME, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, has a near monopoly with a 91% market share. Futures contracts were designed 175 years ago. They have unlimited losses, long clearing times, no guarantees on capital, and continuing fee increases. As an example, about 2 years ago, a single trader started the day with $77,000 in his account, and by the close, he owed $9 million. Our novel instrument designs limit losses, clear instantly, and guarantee traders' capital, all with large cost reductions. If that trader were trading on our exchange, he could not lose more than posted collateral. With no credit extended, the clearing process is vastly simpler and much less costly to implement, allowing us to pass on those cost savings to traders. This provides us with a large fee advantage against competitors, and yet still leaves the exchange with a healthy potential profit margin. We will seek intellectual property protection in all areas: patents, copyrights, and trademarks. Let's take a look at the revenue model. US exchanges charge $400 to $500 in data fees each month. And this is before traders make the first trade. We plan to waive data fees. This is similar to Facebook's fee-free model, bringing lots of eyeballs to our markets. In addition, we plan to waive brokerage fees. This is similar to Robinhood's fee-free model, bringing lots of trading volume. Even with those freebies, we project a higher profit margin than competitors. This is because our internal costs are expected to be about 80 to 90% less. Because of our superior revenue model, we project to go from 0% market share to 10% in 5 years to almost 50% in 10 years, displacing the CME as the largest exchange. This would be a 2,000 times return on your money if we got there. Our target market is the same as CME's, very large institutions. The amount of money controlled by these groups is massive. It's practically uncountable. For example, you're all familiar with Robinhood. They have been very successful, right? Having opened millions of online brokerage accounts with over $1 trillion invested in those accounts. But did you know that just one asset manager, BlackRock, controls 10 times that amount? And this is only one asset manager. There are literally thousands of them. Can you imagine what our markets would be like if a tiny fraction of these institutions were to utilize a risk-reducing marketplace? Okay, but why would they jump ship and join us? The answer lies with fiduciaries. Fiduciaries are compelled by law to seek out the lowest cost, lowest risk providers, essentially forcing them to trade on our exchange. Additional traction includes some signed agreements we already have in place with ICE, US Bank, Bloomberg, Box, and NASDAQ. We also have a signed letter of intent from a US options exchange, our first big customer. The industry has grown exponentially over the past 5 years. Profit margins are also extremely high, with on average 75 cents of every dollar dropping to the bottom line. Our industry veterans have experience at the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, Morgan Stanley, Citibank, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, Hong Kong BATS, and MIAX exchanges. Our 6 million capital needs can be broken down into roughly 3 equal buckets. 2 million is needed to get to launch. 2 million will be spent making the launch successful, and 2 million will be placed in the bank to satisfy the CFTC's capital reserve requirements. Oops, sorry about that. Regarding exit strategy, typical startups travel through their explosive growth phase in a few years. This is why early stage investors generally look for a 3 to 5 year exit. In our case, we expect the explosive growth phase to last a decade. Our goal is to become the largest exchange in the US. If successful, potential gains of 2000x are possible. This will not happen if investors are too short-term oriented. Thanks, everybody, and come help us break through the near monopoly in the largest industry in the world.
Thank you so much for that, Robert. I appreciate you sharing your screen on that. As we get started on the questions here, I think we need, I'm sorry, one sentence on your background is just not enough. Can we dig a little bit deeper, Bob, into what you've done in the past? And I think it's important. Take a couple moments if you can.
Sure. Well, I personally have been on all sides of the industry. There's what they call the buy side if you're investing, and then there's the sell side, you know, the brokers and the administrators and everybody, hedge funds, and they're all trying to sell you stuff. So I've been on both sides, but also in the middle at the exchanges. And I've been in the derivatives industry for over 30 years. And so I really have seen it from all angles, which helped me design these instruments. And what this really took was, this isn't a technology play per se, right? Even if we could leapfrog the CME, they have more money than God. They could leapfrog us right back with more, you know, better technology, faster technology, whatever, right? They can use satellites and lasers and whatever they needed to kind of, you know, steal that market back. How we're going to take on them is by redesigning those 175-year-old instrument designs. So that's really the key here. And you know, having all of that background, I was at Morgan Stanley. I was at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange for a while. And I also was started a company doing due diligence on hedge funds. And that was a very successful company where we would essentially check out managers and make sure that large institutional investors could, you know, felt safe investing in them. It's not like a mutual fund, you know. In a mutual fund, of course, you could win or lose money just because, you know, the market goes up or down, but your capital is fairly safe in a mutual fund because it's well regulated. With a hedge fund, it's like the wild west. So, you know, if you don't do your due diligence on the managers, they could just, you know, take off with your money. So
No, thank you for spending a couple moments on your background. I think that's really helpful for folks. You talk about the CME being one of the largest player in the space. Are there any other, in terms of a competitive landscape, are there other emerging companies like yours that are trying to break into this space?
Yes, there are, but they're all going after a very different target market. Like I was saying, we're going after the institutions, the investment banks, hedge funds, market makers, asset managers, industrial hedgers. Those are the guys that have these trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars under management that they're investing or need risk control. And when you get right down to it, our markets are really risk control. They're not really designed for investing per se. That's where you go to, you know, the stock market or a bond market to invest your money. But this is for risk control, just kind of like you buy insurance, right? You buy insurance for risk control. You're not buying it as an investment. So when you're trading futures contracts, it's very similar, but these guys have such such a massive amount of risk that they need to utilize a marketplace like ours. And we're the only startup going after the CME. We're the only startup going after the large institutional investors. The few that we're talking about that are starting up in this business are going after the retail, kind of the Robinhood investor type. Yeah. And while they, in aggregate have a lot of money, so to speak, it's really not a lot of money.
Got it. No, I think that's really helpful. And then for those who aren't super familiar with futures contracts, can we just give a brief kind of synopsis of what that looks like? And then just talk about relative to risk. Why are these futures contracts so risky? And how do you, with demand derivatives, de-risk those assets?
Yeah, so a futures contract basically has unlimited potential. There's no limit on what the price could go to, right? It could go to infinity. We've never had one go that high, but it can go, there's no limit. And the same thing actually on the downside. Now, that seems weird, like it can't go below zero, right? Well, crude oil proved you wrong 2 years ago. It went to minus $34 a barrel. Okay, so there is theoretically and in reality no limit to a futures contract, both up and down. And so how do you post collateral to protect against that? Okay, so when the crude oil market went down, okay, well, hold on. Let me step back for 1 second. Typically, the way futures works is they require you to post a performance bond or a margin. Let's say 10% is sort of a standard amount, which would cover the 1 day move. Essentially, that's where they're saying, okay, we're going to cover a 1 day move. It's pretty rare that a market will move more than 10% in a day. Okay. Now, sometimes they'll jack up the margin and say, hey, you should give us 20%. The world's really volatile right now, that kind of thing, right? Well, that day when crude oil went down to negative $34 a barrel, it moved minus 237%. So what kind of margin would you ever charge somebody to cover that risk? Like, that's ridiculous, kind of. And so no matter what margin they charge, you can always exceed it, and you can always exceed it by a lot. And that's the problem, because what happens when you start pulling out your pockets and say, I'm sorry, I know I lost all my money, but I just don't have any more. It's not that I don't want to pay you, I just don't have any more. Like, who then covers that risk? Well, that's called systemic risk, because now your broker has to pay. And if enough people default, now the broker goes out of business. And that's what happened like with Lehman Brothers and, Bear Stearns and all of that in 2008. That's exactly the problem we're trying to solve, is that systemic contagion of defaults, domino around the world, because the guy who won, right, he's waiting for his payment and the guys can't pay him, right? So now he defaults even though he won, right? So like this, it's a huge problem. And this happens more often than you kind of know. I mean, just this year, there was a default in the nickel market. But anyhow, how we're solving that is all of our futures contracts have limited risk. The most you can lose is the collateral that you post. So that one guy that I gave you an example, if he were all in, the most he could lose is $77,000.
And then that's a really interesting point. And there's one more question I want to make sure we get to, but before we do that, capping the downside, does that necessarily cap the upside as well? How does that work?
Yes, and so if you said, I'm going to post $5,000 worth of risk, then that's also the amount of money that you can make. But what's very interesting is we've added what's called an order type that would allow you for unlimited potential. And see, right now futures contracts have unlimited potential, unlimited risk, and they have an order type that tries to limit that risk called a stop. In other words, if we hit this area, this price level, get me the hell out of there, because I can't afford it anymore, kind of thing, right? That's basically where you put your stop. The problem with a stop is that it's not guaranteed. It's kind of best efforts. And if that best effort happened overnight, when the market makes a big move, then the next morning is when you get filled, which could be way away from your stop price. So what we did is we flipped those around. We guaranteed those limits with the futures contract, but then kind of restored the potential with an order type.
Very interesting. Okay, I'm going to dig deeper into that. That makes a lot of sense. I'm going to make sure that we get this last question in before we switch over to our last presenter. You can only raise up to $5 million under Reg CF, and I think your offering maximum is lower than that.
Right.
What is the plan for what other channels for raising capital? What does that look like?
Right. So currently, because of SEC rules, the most we can raise on Netcapital is 400 and something. I think it's 418,000, something like that. But all we need is an audit. There were other restrictions, but we passed all those. The only thing that's kind of stopping us now from going higher is the audit, which we're doing right now. So as soon as we get the audit done, then we could go up to 5 million. And then all we need is 1 more million, which we are continually kind of beating the bush for Reg D investors, maybe strategic partners or whatever to add the other million, or maybe let's say 3 million, then we only need 3 million on crowdfunding, something like that. But we continue to, looking under every rock, basically. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the fundraising journey. Thank you for these questions. We're going to start to transition now here. Peter, I do see that your hand is up. Were you wanting to ask a question, or was that just kind of an accident? And you're muted. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and lower your hand, because I think what you were saying was that might have been inadvertent. Yes. Okay. So I'm gonna go. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of that. And that's a perfect transition for me to remind everybody that you just heard from Robert, and he was speaking about demand derivatives. They're actively raising capital on the Netcapital platform. We'll go ahead and add a link to that offering back into the chat here, so you can go ahead and click that link in chat, or you can go directly to netcapital.com/companies/demand derivatives, or search demand derivatives on Netcapital. Same thing for our previous presenter. You can go directly to netcapital.com/companies/smooth experience, or search smooth experience on the Netcapital platform to be able to find that offering page. And if you're so inclined, you can invest. We're transitioning to our last presenter now. So thank you so much for all of our panelists. Do stick around all the way to the end, because there is a little bit of allocation. We'll allow folks to ask some more questions. Maybe we'll do like a final remarks kind of thing. So please do stick around. There's gonna be more opportunity to hear from our guests. But for now, we're going to transition to our last presentation. Peter, why don't you come on in now and tell me all about what you're building with Kazoo?
Okay, great. I am going to also do a brief presentation, but I will try to make this dynamic. So,
Perfect.
So I am Peter Goodman. I'm the CEO and a founder in Kazoo. We're going to start out by, Eric, just let me know if I can share my screen.
You can,
Okay,
and you should be granted access. Yep.
Gotcha. 1 second. Perfect. Hopefully you can see me.
Looks like it's still loading. I will let you know as soon as it comes all the way through. Is it just me? I see. There we go. Yep, I see it now.
You see it? Okay.
Yes.
So good evening, everyone. I'm excited to tell you all about Kazoo. I want to start out by saying that we're going to talk about safety here, not the sexiest thing to talk about, but our product and our solution is. So there are major problems with our emergency system, our 911 system, and there are 2 core problems, but actually a lot more. One is that 911 can't always find you in an emergency. because the grid basically is more than 50 years old. And also, there are more than 10 million calls that are misrouted. They're sent to the wrong 911 center each year, and they require transfer. What does this mean? This means that when you're in danger, when someone's in danger, that you may be trying to get help within, seconds, minutes, but that call will be transferred and transferred and transferred, and those precious seconds really can be dire. And a lot of times you guys may have seen that on TV, that 911 can't always find you in an emergency. And one of the issues also is that there are a lot of dropped calls, and there's no basically guarantee that first responders will be able to get to you, efficiently. So, safety is, everyone's concerned about safety these days because we're concerned about our kids, our friends, our elderly parents, extended family. And so what we've developed is it's really a social and safety platform. At its core, it's for any smartphone user, whether they have an Apple device or an Android. And if you think about what we're doing, just taking a step back, it's really an Apple Watch with SOS, but on steroids. Whereas people who have Apple Watches, they can only, benefit from, what Apple Watch offers in terms of its emergency capabilities. But what we're platform agnostic. So Kazoo can be used by Android, iOS users, it doesn't matter, and, globally as well. So the core of the technology, as I mentioned, is that it offers, let's say it's a child, a friend, someone else, elderly parent. If they're experiencing an emergency, all they have to do is tap SOS. And there's a lot more to our app, which I'll get into in a minute, but they tap SOS and it automatically sends a broadcast out to up to 4 emergency contacts. And this can happen if the emergency contacts are halfway around the world. And what the emergency contacts see, they see who else is viewing. They see the exact location. They can actually connect to the nearest emergency call center on behalf of the person. So let's say the parents, mom and dad, see that their child, their daughter is in an emergency, but she's in California. They can actually tap 911 and it will deploy the local 911 center where she is, minutes away from her. And so other things you can do is share the live link with first responders, tracking the real-time location. There's also push-to-talk capabilities with the victim. Also as part of the app, it's important that the technology is not just being used if there's an emergency, because people will forget about that. You basically need to have, as the phrase is coined, a sticky app. And Kazoo offers a lot more, because it's dealing with, location services. It's dealing with, tracking rides in Uber, alerts to make sure your child arrived at school or didn't arrive at school. There's real-time live streaming from different locations. There's in-app navigation. There's more than 50 different features that are very practical and streamlined, that don't make it a bloated app, but make it a real necessity of an app, as part of life. And your mind, or one's mind, can go in many directions, because this can be used for ride sharing safety, medical emergencies, child safety, public safety emergencies, natural disasters, school incidents. And what's interesting, Greg, when you were talking about SmoothX, this is actually very synergistic with what you guys are doing. When people go on vacation, they want to be able to see the excursions. They want to be able to go scuba diving, and they're going to be traveling around to in this foreign country, which is really exciting. But they also want to make sure that they're safe, and also their family and friends, those who they're going on trips with, are safe. So to be able to have this type of app like Kazoo, that works globally. You're equipped with this safety capability, so that you can get in touch with whomever at any period of time if you run into an emergency, not only just day to day, but overseas. So you kind of can see like this technology can be repurposed for a lot of different uses. The way that we're going to make money is that really through we can do B2C, but really where we see the market is the business to business market, being able to white label or white labeling our technology to telcos, where there are 6 billion smartphone subscribers worldwide. And I'll talk about, some successes that we've had, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Deutsche Telekom, Vodafone and Bell Canada, theme parks. If you think about Disney and Merlin and Universal, when families plan in advance to go to a theme park, they want to basically know that their kids and their family is going to be safe and that everyone's connected. So to be able to have a branded app like Disney, where they have bracelets and certain things when you get to the gate, but to be able to have an all-encompassing app that will really provide this type of assurance while you're at the park and even after, really makes this an attractive technology for theme parks. Also, home security, companies. Again, there are a lot of synergies because people want to be safe in the home, but they also want to be safe out of the home. And as I mentioned, I've really focused on the safety aspect because nothing exists like this in the market, today. There are different apps, like I said, Apple Watch, offers really compelling, great technology. Other technologies or, other companies offer, apps that may do 1 or 2 or 3, of these things, but we do multiple things well. The safety has to be, 99.9% there. But all of these other lifestyle aspects of the live streaming and in-app navigation and the inter-family and inter-friends communication is a really important and attractive part of the app. And so in terms of this just not being wishful thinking, we've gone through many numerous iterations of the product, and we were accepted into a developer program through AT&T. It's called FirstNet, which is FirstNet's the nation's only ecosystem for public safety, where they integrate, across firefighters and police, EMTs, et cetera. So it's really a business to business, marketplace. And we're looking at being FirstNet certified in 2023. It's not an easy process, but AT&T or FirstNet has a real big incentive if they, bring you into the program. They want you to be successful. And what this will mean, this is important because it'll allow us to have immediate access into a nationwide distribution channel, into a first responder business to business marketplace. It'll also allow us to leverage joint marketing opportunities with AT&T and FirstNet, and it also will provide a pathway into AT&T's consumer division, which will allow for mass scale and revenue opportunities. And this is really something significant because we wouldn't be, calling on AT&T from a stranger's perspective or from a cold call. We will have already built the relationship from within AT&T's FirstNet division. So the assurance or the credibility and the comfort, will be already there because our program has gone through this process. I'm just going through the last few slides. The market opportunity is tremendous. This is just a sliver of what the market is. Looking at the total addressable market just within the US, this is looking at it just from a business to consumer perspective. There are 276 million plus smartphone users. If we look at what's really the accessible market, or what we kind of think of as the most likely market, basically 25 million smartphone users who purchase 3 to 4 apps per month. Although we're not focused on a business to consumer marketplace, that poses great opportunity for us from a revenue standpoint. Our bread and butter is really working with white label or licensing deals with these corporations, so we have a one-to-one to many or one-to-one to millions relationship to get our technology out there. from a competitive standpoint, anyone can have a competitive chart and make it look good against competitors. But what I really wanted to focus on here, rather than going through these one by one, what really sets us apart, I'll just go through a few of these, a couple things. Life 360 is a company that has $1 billion market cap. They've gone public in Australia. They started small, just like we did, where they started with a $100,000 Google grant. They've really expanded in terms of and focused on the family, market, focusing on, insurance, driving analytics, et cetera. But they haven't focused on this whole emergency capability that I just mentioned, tapping into emergency call centers, the live streaming bi-directional videos, integrating safety, location, communications, and live streaming. And that's really what sets us apart, not only from Life 360, but another company called GeoZilla. And in terms of just what we're looking for, really, because we've had some successful raises in the past, we came from WeFunder, raised just about 220,000. We've been getting our momentum, with Netcapital. We're looking probably right now for about $400,000 to complete the final version of the app and bring it to market. And I mentioned the final version of the app is because we had to do some back-end infrastructure work because of the AT&T relationship, because they require really rigorous back-end infrastructure, security, and scalability. And so there's an extra requirement, an extra development that we need to do to invest in the product to ensure that it meets those standards. Just tying things up here, I am, the CEO. Since college, I've been a diehard entrepreneur. I started in technology, medical, software. We had venture funding. I grew the company, from basically my parents' basement into getting purchased by a publicly traded company. My passion is really building products that help people, and that's kind of what my whole career has been focused on: technology and really these creative solutions that kind of make people's lives better. And we have a great team. Our senior architect, CTO, is phenomenal. He came up through the Israeli Defense Forces. He's worked, as a system architect for companies like Microsoft and Warner Brothers, Jaguar. So he really is, Pablo has great entrepreneurial spirit, and he also understands how to architect and build enterprise solutions that could scale on a global perspective. Jake also is, from a product design perspective, is extremely talented. He built a product called Fancy, which ended up getting awarded Apple's Product of the Year, and also has 15 million users. He was also part of a team that raised $100 million, a founding team. So he's really great at understanding not only good design, but how products will fit into the marketplace and what will make people use them. And that's really important from a team perspective. And Scott, I've been working with for the past 13 years. He's one of the best in terms of, digital marketing, design, and just, I feel like our core team here just has great, synergies and diversity in terms of what we bring to the table. And just some last highlights, we've raised $650,000 from the founders and almost 500 investors now. We were awarded the 2021 Impact Company of the Year by .com magazine. I mentioned we were accepted into AT&T's FirstNet program. I touched on this, our Kazoo's head of project design, Jake, designed an app that, had 15 million users. And also the global smartphone user market is 6.3 billion, and it's growing, at least at 4% per year. So, I've touched just the edge of the iceberg, or the tip of the iceberg, in terms of what the potential for Kazoo is. but I hope this excites you enough to want to learn more about what we're doing.
Thank you so much for that, Peter. Oh, do you want to talk to this?
Yeah, no. Sorry, Eric. Go on.
Okay, no problem. And I can
Yeah.
actually go ahead and just not allow you to share your screen, so I'll take
Perfect.
control really
Yeah.
quickly. Yeah, no problem. All right, cool. No, thank you so much for that presentation. No, I think there was lots of synergy across the board actually with you with this entire demo. But I do think of like the parts of times when I feel most vulnerable are when I'm in that transitionary period of traveling, right? I've already checked my bag at the airport. I'm pretty, or I'm at a sporting event, large crowds, which are not allowed to bring in any protective equipment or anything like that. And so I think this is a really compelling offering, and I think safety should be, if it's not, more sexy in an investing space. So it's critically important. As people are wrapping up this programming, I know we only have a couple moments left. You talked about some of your successes so far. It's incredible traction. I love the AT&T program discussion. Can you talk about some of your future projected successes, some things that you're excited for that look like in the near term horizon?
Yeah.
Potential milestones.
Yeah, one of the things that just is really exciting is that the type of people that we're getting involved are, pretty high level and have connections that, I'll just give you an example. We're at the very late stages of signing an agreement with a major global celebrity, and that's exciting because this person's background, is dealing with kind of personal safety, in kind of more of an entertainment sense. I'm trying to like build the excitement without saying who it is.
Delicate dance.
The point is that through this type of relationship, I've been able to be introduced through the vetting process by people who, by this one individual who's a global expert in terms of high net worth families, celebrities, kids, etc. And this just happened a couple of weeks ago when I did actually a demo presentation, and it was really nice. Being entrepreneurs, sometimes you wonder if you're the only one out there, and you start to, everyone, you have to admit, you sometimes lose doubt, but you always, persist. But when I see the type of excitement from other people who have that kind of expertise in the security and the global security market and how it applies to people's whose lives that I'm not even familiar with, that really gets me excited, and says to me that, hey, we're on the right track. So getting back to your question in terms of near term kind of accomplishments, what this will do is will give us great visibility and exposure in a very fun and creative way. And that's kind of something we need as a company. Every small company, needs that, even if it's kind of gimmicky. As long as there's something robust and real behind it, it's kind of like the break that we've been looking for. So I don't mean to be too nebulous or ambiguous or teasing, but hopefully I'll be able to talk about it soon.
No, I think a lot of the folks on the line here appreciate that. Everything in due time, and you have that announcements feature built into your fundraise, so everybody can be notified when you're able to discuss more fully about that potential partnership. So that puts us at the top of the hour. I'd love to thank each of our panelists for coming and sharing the good word about what they're building here. Remember, we heard from Smooth Experience, Demand Derivatives, and Kazoo. I'm adding details about each of those. Oh, the links did not copy there. So that is just the company names. Don't you worry at home. I am ready to follow that up. I've added the links to each of those offerings into the chat there. Again, you can go to netcapital.com and search for each of these companies, or you can go directly to their links in the chat, or you can go to netcapital.com/companies/smooth experience/demand derivatives/Kazoo to go and find those offering pages, review those materials, and potentially invest. I'd also like to thank each of the attendees for coming in and asking your thoughtful questions. We did keep that pretty interactive, which is always my goal. Lastly, as always, this has been recorded and will be uploaded to the Netcapital YouTube account. I went ahead and added a link to that into the chat as well, so you can find any parts that you missed, learn some more, share with a friend that you think missed the event but might be interested in potentially learning more and investing. So I've added that link into the chat there for you to visit Netcapital's YouTube account. With all that being said, thank you so much again to each of you here, Peter, Greg, Robert. It's always a pleasure hanging out with you all. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Bye now.